let's talk about a video game which a bunch of people are playing in an alpha right now, which is great and posting video content and all that sort of stuff. And we've had, I think, collectively over the past couple of months, sort of enough time to play it, past couple of weeks as well, to sort of get to grips with it. Aaron, you're basically like, yourself and Ryan are basically like the Battlefield experts here in the office. Mike, you played a bunch as well. You're our like World War I expert as well.
Yes, so.
I love Battlefield series. I used to play in a Vietnam clan. I haven't been too into it since Battlefield 3, I'll say. But I thought it'd be cool to get the three of us here together and just sort of like talk shop, like say, okay, what do we think of Battlefield 1? We've played like put like hours into it at this stage, some of us more than others, and what do we feel about it? Aaron, first of all, what's your take on Battlefield 1?
My first impression when I fired up Battlefield 1, and we played it at E3, it was the closed alpha build, so there's a lot that can still change between now and when they're done, was they listened to fan feedback and they got it this time. Like, I think they understand like how to make classes different. They understand how to make objectives more fun. They understand like finally that people, when they said destruction, they meant building destruction and ground deformation. Just everything at this stage feels so competent and awesome. The setting itself, it's a little funny. It's definitely, I think as Rob Hamler pointed out in a piece, it's definitely fantasy World War I. Like it's World War II in World War I, which is probably was necessary to appeal to the core Battlefield fans because they couldn't slap scopes and automatic rifles in authentic World War I. And I think that just wouldn't have worked for this audience.
Yeah.
But it feels very familiar. Some of the things will feel like reskins to you, but like not in a bad way at all.
So like I'm interested to hear you say that because you're somebody who has been very critical of DICE with Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 in sort of in different ways. What were the core things you think they needed to change with Battlefield 1? Like what were the things coming out of Battlefield 4 that you were like particularly grieved about?
I actually really did like 3. I thought it was a good compromise. Although that was the moment when they started caring more about graphics than destruction. And then that carried through to 4, where I just felt 4 was very conceptually weak. It just had no identity.
Yeah.
They kind of threw
it's like
everything
3.5 or something, it kind of felt like.
It did feel like 3.5. And also just nothing felt very unique in that game. And one of my biggest problems was that I feel like they put all this thought into Levolution.
Yes.
But what they put their thought into is the spectacle of Levolution and not the way that Levolution plays. And a lot of the maps, including Siege of Shanghai, got real boring after the Levolution happened. Or the Levolution was crazy underwhelming.
Yeah.
So I think, again, like that was another case where they just didn't understand that people told them they wanted destruction, but they didn't understand that they weren't just talking about the spectacle of destruction. They were talking about meaningful destruction.
And there's a lot of that in this. I was really surprised, Mike. I remember you came on a couple of weeks ago and talked about your experience, hiding in a bunker shell, basically, while everything else is going on around you, and using that like little hole to gain back your health or whatever. I played a couple of matches recently and couldn't believe how vastly it's what they were promising forever, that like the levels do actually change. By the end of it, it's just like, the Zeppelins crush this town. There's like potholes where there weren't potholes before. It looks almost indistinguishable. What's your take on the sort of the evolution, as it were, in the game, and like how that actually manifests like in terms of gameplay?
Yeah, to speak to what Aaron was just saying, it's not just an aesthetic thing anymore. It's an actual, like, there's functionality to it, right? I told that story about like there's 5 of us holding out in this outpost. You could hear artillery coming in. The sound design in this game, even like in the alpha, is unreal. It's it's integral to how you play and like what you're doing and what you think you should do next and whatnot. But you hear the whistle of the artillery come in. 4 other people get killed. I'm half dead. But the artillery itself created a crater that I crawled into. Didn't even have to fire my gun. I just waited there to hold down the outpost until more people can get there in like armored trucks. And then there's footage of me from when I'm sniping. I'm the scout. Rob and I were playing a match back at E3. And went into this like attic of this, or like the loft of a barn. There's a small window with like a little windowsill over it. It's like, oh shit, I can't see anything. All of a sudden, half the place gets torn away by the enemy team because he knew I was in there, so he was just like pummeling it. So I went prone, killed a few people. The window itself got torn out, so I like had like a sight line all of a sudden that wasn't there 5 seconds ago.
Yeah, it's a game of those types of stories. Like we're all exchanging those stories, which like reminds me of kind of a bit like Bad Company, where you'd have, and people have been talking about they should go back to Bad Company for years, and this feels really close to it. We were kind of talking about it earlier, Aaron. I had a situation earlier which felt like it was taken right out of Saving Private Ryan, where it was like, oh, I'm in a clock tower sniping people. I've had like real trouble on the ground artillery, sort of like learning the pace of Battlefield again, but up in this clock tower, or up in this like windmill, I guess it was. I was feeling really confident. confident. There was a bit of the wall broken off, and it was a good spot. It was facing 2 control points. I killed like 7 dudes in a row, which are like with the like leading scope where you're like shooting where they're going to be, which is so satisfying.
They also added in bullet drag this time, which is really fascinating. So the bullets actually slow down over distance.
Wow, that's I didn't realize that actually.
So it'll make it so people who are snipers or scouts or even support will have to be a little bit more skilled.
Yeah, and probably can't murder you from halfway across the map necessarily. And yeah, I was killing all these guys, and then you know, as what happens when you're a sniper, eventually they turn on you and start knowing where you are and firing on you. And they were firing on me and suppressing me, but I was still like not getting killed. And then I heard that whistle.
Yeah.
And the next thing, the whole thing just blew up, and it was like, you know what? That was all right. I don't mind getting killed that way. How do you feel the vehicles are turning out this time around, Aaron?
The vehicles will feel very familiar to Battlefield 3 and 4 fans. You have a car, which is essentially the same as the MRAP,
right?
Which was just the light fast vehicle. You have, I think, a heavy tank, which is very similar to the Amtrak from 3. Right. So you'll feel right at home if you play Battlefield. And I'm assuming one of the things they wanted to accomplish with this World War setting was not to alienate Battlefield fans, and they wanted things to still feel familiar to them. So the vehicles feel good. They feel familiar. There's nothing like we haven't seen the horse yet.
Right. Yeah.
Which is the one thing where I don't think they could. I mean, unless they make it exactly like the motorcycle.
Right. Yeah.
You know, wondering about the horse though is kind of funny. I haven't noticed on this one yet, but usually when you walk away from vehicles in Battlefield, like 30 feet, they explode. So like, are you just like, what do you do with the horse? Do they explode in a bunch of guts? Or are you like, oh, you've seen enough, Bessie, like go off into the pasture?
I mean, if you played enough Red Dead Redemption, you just shoot them in the head, right? Just like walk away, watch them flop down. There's something about this which feels very reminiscent of playing 1942, where there are these massive battles, and in a way, maybe it's because I've been playing a lot of Overwatch recently, and you feel like you're so engaged in like the victory. But there's so much about this game where you do feel like you're a small cog in a big battlefild. Is that okay, do you think, Mike? Because obviously, like feeling like you're engaged in, like you're important to success is clearly important in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to be integral to your team. Just today, or just, you know, like I was watching someone on YouTube or whatever, but at E3, I was playing and I was a scout, and I spent like maybe 3 total minutes just running around the edge of the map to get to the monastery. It's like the map that the closed alpha had, the San Quentin Scar. And I spent about 3 minutes just running around the edge. Didn't see anybody. Nobody saw me from what I know. But then I got to the monastery, locked it down. I didn't fire a single shot for like 5 total minutes. But it still was a capture point, which is a huge deal.
Right, yeah.
I mean, like, it's so impressive how the scale of these battles changes, despite the fact that they are massive. I prefer playing as a scout if I haven't like hinted at that yet. So I'll be trying to hit someone from across the map. I'll be waiting for them to stand still from like 100 yards away so I can get the shot. But then I'll go into a farmhouse with my pistol out. Some guy with a hatchet will just smoke me. The actual scale, like switching from close quarters to long range to this tank was coming at me, and I ran behind a wall, and I still wasn't used to destructible environments yet. So I was like, all right, I'm safe. I'm just going to try to play cat and mouse around this wall. No, he just blew it up, and I was staring him in the face. It's just the different encounters that you come across, and like you said, the stories you come out from these matches with. It's you know, it's closed alpha, but it's enticing. It's kind of encouraging. I like the fact that it's not this sterile thing you jump into every time. You know, like Call of Duty. I haven't played Infinite Warfare yet, obviously, but you jump into these matches, and it's the same thing over and over. It's just Twitch gameplay. You're trying to get this many kills, trying to, you know, be number 1 in the ranks. But then there are so many different ways to get points for your team and kind of aid the effort, like whether it's just contributing fire to an airship or guiding a tank into the right outpost at the right time to just lock it down for just 10 seconds more, stuff like that. It's so cool to see how these battles can unfold with you like in different roles.
Yeah, and that's the way it kind of feels different to me, is that we look at a lot of the footage of this game, and I certainly felt this way until I got hands-on with it, was that, like, I get it, it looks like a kind of a reskin, and the battles are slightly bigger, but there is a totally different pace to this. Like, I feel like my time to death is like way longer. Like I'm existing in the world a lot more.
A lot of this,
in a way that reminds me of like Battlefield 2 a lot as well.
Yeah, on that point, I think a lot of this is a return to what was good about previous Battlefields. I feel like they went through the line and just picked out the good bits of everything and then put it into this game. So time to kill is longer, which is refreshing given more modern games. They went back to, at least in the alpha, class-based. So you don't have the carbines of 4 that make everybody do everything. You really do have to stick within your class and role. And if a tank rolls up on you as a medic, there's not a lot you can do about it. You got to choose better and move better. The Zeppelin's interesting, actually. The Zeppelin's the first time in this game where, and it is similar to the AC-130, but as opposed to being tied to a base, it's tied to the losing team.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I think that they've done something to try and help matches balance better. It's interesting though, because it's a decision you have to make. If you get into the Zeppelin, you can destroy most of the map, but you can't capture points. So you'll still lose from on high. It's a balance. It's there to help you, but it won't win the match for you.
I liked how when it happens as the sort of attacking team, it was almost, I have to stop with all the Overwatch references, but it reminded me of when like Tracer runs into the back of your team where suddenly you have this thing you have to worry about you didn't have to worry about before. Like there's this massive hulking thing that's like making its way across the map, and it's even if you're not like attacking it all the time, you're like getting to it. Like you're like, oh, I'm right beside like a like a big gun, like a standing gun. I should go and start taking a couple of shots. It's like on your mind the whole time.
Like a menace.
Yeah, like a menace, exactly. And there was times where I was running along and I was looking at it and I'm like, don't hit me, don't hit me, don't hit me. And you can see it kind of going boom, boom, like hitting near you. And I was like, and then it like made me change the direction I was going in to try and get to the objective. So yeah, it's a really interesting, like intimidating sort of factor there. And like, it's one of those moments where I think it was like maybe it wasn't Caspian Border. What was the one with the large telephone pole in the middle of it? Was that was Caspian Border? Yeah. So I remember like seeing that fall down for the first time was like wow, and like just sitting back and going, that's awesome, man. When that Zeppelin blew up, it was like hell. It was like raining down, and I saw like cars driving away trying to get away from it, and it's just awful. Like it's just this flaming like mass, and then the fact that like later then in that map, I was trying to like get one of the objectives with a little battalion or a little squad, and like we were just like literally jumping over parts of the thing that had like torn this village apart. It's just it's interesting in so many ways that I wasn't really expecting.
Yeah, Rob Handlery had mentioned the idea that if you're driving the Zeppelin, you know it's about to go down, try to position it in a way that, you know, you're losing the airship. You might as well try to make it more difficult for the other team to like get to a crucial checkpoint if possible. Right. You know, like position it so it's going to be this choke point. It'd be this like almost new
like a trench,
like a new trench almost. Yeah, and that's the thing. Most shooters nowadays are very reactionary, right? There's more forethought in this now. Just based on the closed alpha, that feels like placement is so much more important. It's not necessarily lining up the right shot. It's like, I don't know, I'm reminded of like the Wayne Gretzky quote. He says like, good players go where the puck is, great players go where the puck's gonna be.
Yeah.
So I feel like Battlefield, like it's returning to those roots, like Aaron said, where it's more about like thinking through a few moves and like where you can be, not necessarily to get like 2 or 3 kills, but where you can be to kind of actually impact the flow of the battle in the next 5 minutes. And that's like a really refreshing thing in the modern shooter landscape.
It's going to be super interesting to see what they do with the single player aspect of this. Last thought on this, Aaron, what do you think, what else do you want to see from this? Obviously, closed alpha is running at the moment. They're probably going to do more betas and reveal more multiplayer stuff. What else would you like them to introduce, or what would you like them to focus on?
I think this map in the closed alpha is technically extremely competent, and everything mostly like feels great to play with, sounds great. We've only seen one map. I want to see a map that gives me that sensation we got the first time we jumped off Dam of Van Peek.
Oh my God, yes.
Like, I don't think Battlefield has done that since Dam of Van Peek.
Right.
Just something.
Like, why not?
Something that just like blows you away that you've never seen before.
Yeah.
I think you always want that from a game. So I think at this stage they have technical competence. They've taken the best bits of other Battlefields and put them in place. Everything's in line right now for them to really just blow you away with something. And I haven't seen that something just yet, but the Zeppelin's probably the closest thing to that. Yeah. But I'm excited to see what else they have up their sleeve.
That'd be cool. Yeah. Some messed up maps. We'll have to see. I mean, it's been a lot of diversity in the maps in what they've shown in the trailer. So I don't know. Maybe we'll get something cool there. Thank you both for coming on and talking about the Battlefields. I don't think it'll be the last time we're going to be talking about it this year. So I look forward to getting you both on in the future again to talk about it.